Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another SpeciCare Facebook chat. And today we're going to be discussing a very important topic. We're going to talk about the patient's role in his or her cancer care journey. I'm Leah Streuber, and I'm here again with our Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Ken Dixon. Our guest today is Dr. Jared Barrott. He is an associate professor at Idaho State University, and he's one of our favorite collaborators. He works with us at SpeciCare, and Dr. Dixon and Dr. Barrett definitely spend a lot of time on the phone together discussing things that are way over my head. But before we get started with today's topic, Jared, please tell the audience a little bit about yourself and your involvement with SpeciCare.
Yeah, so I am a cancer pharmacologist, meaning I work on developing drugs and testing them to make sure that they're safe and effective before they go into any kind of clinical trial or into human use. I've been interested with cancer research from a very early stage of my career. I've done my PhD in training at Duke University, where I studied breast cancer. And then I transitioned to some postdoctoral training, and there I was able to study more rare malignancies or cancers that affect the bone and muscles in young patients, our adolescent friends and young adults. And so these sarcomas are now my attention and what I'm passionate about helping the cancer pharmacologist today. And so what happened, I've always been interested in personalized medicine approaches. And last year I was given the opportunity to attend a convention in Atlanta, Georgia, which is pretty close to where I grew up. So I was excited to come back to the Southeast. And I was able to attend the Functional Precision Medicine Conference, in which SpeciCare and Ken Dixon were a major part of that. And they were introduced to some newer concepts about personalized medicine, and very much on board with what SpeciCare is doing and enabling patient care to drive their own outcome and research with their own data. So,
well, Leah, I'm listening to this talk, listening to Jared talk, and I think I just need to be quiet for about 15 minutes.
Well, I've learned a lot from Dr. Dixon, that's for sure, and I'm very excited about this direction. One of the things that really touched me about functional precision medicine is how well it aligns with other approaches to personalized patient care. And so in my training, I've always thought of genetics and genomics as the main way to personalize care for the patient. And that became very apparent to me many years ago, about 5 or 6 years ago, when one of my good friends and earlier mentors was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. And when I heard about this, I reached out to him and was just asking how he was feeling, how he was dealing with it mentally, physically, emotionally. And as we were talking about it, the subject came up. He asked me what I was doing, and I told him I was doing cancer research. And I said, have you ever thought about getting your tumor sequence for its genome? And he said, no, I haven't. And so I said, oh, you should definitely look into that. So that was kind of enabling him, giving the patient something to do to kind of drive the care for his tumor. And really the stage 4 diagnosis for colon cancer is pretty dire. And as I was talking to him, I was basically calling to kind of say goodbye and thank you. I didn't think he would have much time left to live. And in fact, his doctors told him that he only had about 6 months based off the data that was out there for his stage. Well, it turns out when he talked to his physician and said, hey, I think I should get my tumor sequence, they were able to find a specific mutation. And interestingly, it was a breast cancer mutation in the HER2 gene. And he was able to get on some clinical trials because there are a number of HER2 inhibitors that are out there to treat breast cancer, but nobody really thinks to apply that in the colon cancer setting. And so they were able to put him on a clinical trial, and he's been taking HER2 inhibitors for the past 5 or 6 years and is still doing well. and is in remission from stage 4 colon cancer. So it's an amazing story about how a patient can direct the care for their tumor and receive the most appropriate care by personalizing it. In this case, it was based off the genomics. Ken and I have been talking, a lot of this isn't able to be fixed by just understanding the genomics alone. And so our genetics gives us a lot of information, and I'm very passionate about understanding all that. But the fact of the matter is that there are things that happen in a tumor and in the cancer setting that can't be explained by the genetics. And so that's where this functional precision medicine aspect takes place, and where I was able to be introduced to that just a year ago, and already that has transformed the way I think about patient care and what we can do for a patient on an individual basis.
It's a much more focused way about thinking about the patient. It's harder to figure how to mesh that in with a traditional way of looking at trials for patients of tomorrow. But you know, Jared, where I've come from, similar to you, in my examination rooms over the years, I've had patients that have become friends and done cancer surgeries on them, and when everything goes great, then it's wonderful. But when you lose a patient or know that you've failed as a surgeon to cure the cancer, then you want to make sure that they have all the options. And that's where the genomics plus the testing, the functional testing of the tumor outside the body comes in. I actually just tell this little story about 2013, read an article in Science, the journal Science, about a lady with cholangiocarcinoma that went to the NCI, and she was cured of her cancer. And I went to the NCI subsequently and went to MD Anderson, spent several days at both places trying to see how to convert that knowledge about the individual patient into cures for my patients. And so that led me to start my journey about 6 or 7 years ago. So tell us a little bit more about your transition from breast cancer to sarcomas. How'd you do that, Jared?
So interestingly, when I was at Duke University, I was very focused on the biochemical training and aspect of pharmacology. With that, I was able to come up and design unique drugs that recognize most aggressive or malignant forms of breast cancer. And I just kind of, as I transitioned out of that training, I wanted to diversify and get into the genetic approaches treating cancer on a personalized level. There was an opportunity that presented to me to train with a phenomenal orthopedic surgeon at Huntsman Cancer Institute named Kevin Jones. And he was very specialized in sarcoma research and sarcoma treatment of his patients. And so it wasn't really so much a decision to go into the field of sarcoma, but it was an opportunity to blend pharmacology with genetics, and Dr. Jones provided that opportunity. And since then, I've really come to love the patients that I've interacted with that have sarcoma. These are young individuals that are, you know, around my age or younger, and to be able to see the impact and to feel that opportunity to impact their life for better has really motivated me to in these patients' lives. So really, it's been this opportunity of open doors and trying to converge my background of pharmacology with genetics that has really led me to sarcomas. There's some really interesting research opportunities within that realm, but most importantly, it's the ability to impact sarcoma patients, which really don't have a lot of options when they're being clinically treated.
So actually, I haven't told you this story, but Olson, I forget his first name, but Olson was a name of a fellow who wrote the biography of MD Anderson Cancer Center. And he died after about 30 years after having multiple recurrent synovial sarcoma. I know that's one of the things that you're into researching, but but that is what that's a great name for his book and for MD Anderson. Their little byline, Making Cancer History, and that's what we're working on doing ourselves. Leah, how we're doing for time on this one?
I think that we're okay.
Okay, well then let me just ask you, Jared. I mentioned earlier that we've had Tony Latai talk with us on one of these segments, and he told his polka dog with a stick story. The idea of what would you do if you wanted to know what a dog would do if you poke it with a stick? Well, you'd probably poke it with a stick. Instead, what we do in the cancer field is most often kill the dog, take some of the tissues, cut them up, put them under on a slide and look at it under the microscope. And that's not nearly as informative as keeping the dog alive and poking it with a stick. So would you critique that story?
So I would take it even a further in not only would I take it and fix it and put it under a slide, I would smash it up and grind it and extract out the DNA to do all the sequencing. As I've mentioned, I'm very passionate about the genetic approaches and understanding the genetic mutation and basis of cancer. So that would give me the opportunity to do that to the dog, hypothetically speaking, of course. But having this opportunity to keep it alive and now transitioning into the cancer analogy of this, there's some great questions and approaches that we can ask from a research perspective once that tumor is preserved and kept alive, and we can interrogate it in so many different options as scientists. And I think there's just so much more value in addition to what we're already doing as researchers and clinicians to help these cancer patients. It just gives us one more advantage to understand what the tumor is really all about. And the more information that we have to know about our enemy, the better we can combat him on the battlefield. And so that's really what functional precision medicine is offering us, is just another vantage point to look at somebody's cancer so that we can have a complete view of where the weaknesses are, the vulnerabilities. And once we understand that, we can go and attack it and eliminate it.
So Leah, what should our patients do?
Well, I think that first of all, let Jared's story of his friend resonate with them and realize that there are more options to cancer care, and that there are people out there like Jared and like SpeciCare that are looking to take cancer care to the next level and make it a very personal and very specific journey. And for those of you that are listening, and we appreciate you joining today, and we're going to have another session with Jared upcoming on future Facebook Live events. But for those of you that want more information about what SpeciCare can offer you, if you are in your cancer journey, or a friend or a family member, everybody knows someone that is battling this awful disease, please reach out to us. Check out our website at SpeciCare.com. We want to hear from you, and we want to help as many people as we can. So Jared, thank you for joining today. Thank you, Dr. Dixon, and we will see all of you on our next Facebook Live event. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you.